Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Book Talk. Today I'm going to continue to talk about The Custodians. And so this is basically part 3 of me speaking about this book, which I'm still going through, and there's just it's so much information. Like, I never knew that I would grab this book and like be talking about it in all these different parts. And I probably have another part 5, maybe even 6, because I keep finding tidbits that I find interesting. And then I'm like, oh, this is definitely worthy to talk about. So yeah, I have them jotted down here, things I wanted to talk about that I've recently looked into and thought about, or read and then thought about them. And Lorraine and I have talked a lot about on the podcast, we've talked a lot about like timelines and how, of course, here on Earth, for us, things are like linear time, but that it's only like Earth. Like, you don't have them in like the 5th dimension, Akashic Records. You don't have them. It seems to be in other planets. They're now living that linear time that Earth is living. So it seems to be something that we're stuck in. And once you pull out either of the planet or this dimension that we're living in, then it's like you come out of time. And so there's this scenario where Dolores Cannon put under hypnosis a woman who was having these like insane experiences in her life. So the idea was to kind of visit one by one those experiences to see like what was behind them or what really happened, because they were really like odd scenarios. And so what I found super interesting was at one point when she pulled out of like, this reality in a way during her hypnosis session, she said she was looking around and she was seeing all the different years around her. Like she said, I literally jotted down that she said, like, I saw the 1800s over there, I saw 1945 over there. And so she was talking about how she was seeing all the years kind of all over the place. Like, it's like they were all happening. That's what she was explaining. They're all happening now, which is what the Akashic Workers talk about all the time. And Lorena and I talk about how like our brains are like, because like blown, because we can't our human brains cannot comprehend how is it possible that everything is happening right now. Like all the past lives that the Akashic Records talked about, it's actually happening right now as I'm speaking to you. Like every past life your soul's ever had is happening right now while like you're just listening to this or watching this. Like, how is that possible? Like, even though the Akashic Records have told me about that, even though like I know it's a thing, like my human brain, I still find it really, really hard to like fully understand and fully accept. But I know that this is like a thing, and I know that it's true. So just her seeing that and living the scenario, she was probably a bit blown away, but she was saying it in the hypnosis session. I don't know if she remembered it, because I mean, like the hypnosis sessions back then, the person's conscious doesn't remember it. They would like listen to the audio after, right? Nowadays, it's different. Like apparently we've progressed to the point where our consciousness now can live those things and remember them. So it's a positive step. A lot of people find it really hard to like accept, and I've done a few hypnosis sessions, of course, and like people find it really hard to be like, did I make that up? Did that like really happen? Like, did my brain just make that up? So like we need to like believe ourselves more. I mean, I had an insane dream last night, which I want to write about it, because the experiences was insane. And in the dream, well, I call it dream. Like I've spent many years of dream premonitions, and then I now know the difference after all those experiences that I had. That was my wake up call, because everybody has their own form of wake up call. That was my wake up call. But my experience allows me to tell the difference between just a subconscious, like a dream that you just like had, where it's just your mind filtering and flowing through things that like maybe it's bothering it or it's worried about. I know the difference between that and like an actual astral, like I think they call it lucid dreaming, like where your astral body is actually having an experience, or you're connecting with something your soul's doing while you're sleeping, because our souls do not like stay with us, which Dolores Cannon also talks about this. Like our souls don't stay with us. When we go to sleep, our souls go in and do whatever it is. They might be doing a job, they might be going to study, they might be going to meet up with other souls, they might be going, I don't know, like to do things. This experience last night, guys, was insane. And I woke up and I remembered everything, and I jotted it down. Like, I was like, no, I'm gonna remember this, and no way I'm gonna forget this. And I'm like, no, I might forget some of it. And I'm so glad that I wrote it down. Like, guys, that's like a big, like, make sure that when you have some sort of like experience in dream state, and when you wake up, if you still remember it, I highly recommend you guys jot it down, because I was also that person that wouldn't. And the next year I'd be like, yeah, I don't know, it wasn't that big of a deal. Like, I would kind of, it would fade a little bit, like how impactful it had been on me. That was for me. Like, I would still remember, if I remember the details when I woke up, I would usually remember it after going back to sleep. I'd wake up again, I would remember it. My problem was that the level of experience and impact was lost from the moment that I went back to sleep to when I woke up. I don't know, it's this weird thing, because I woke up like, what? Like, this is insane. My experience was insane. Guys, it was like, literally, this is a word that I wrote down. Like, I have my notes here on my phone, and it was like interstellar travel. Like, my soul literally hopped on what looked like a plane, and it was like some sort of interstellar travel. There was a whole storyline behind why it was happening. Like, it was me with some other individual, and it was a scenario where we were trying to help out another being that was like trapped on another planet. And somehow we worked with his astral body, like me and the person that were working together, which I have no idea who it was, but I guess my soul knows. We like willed the person's astral body into our reality, and we brought the person forward. And then from there, we told the person, like, show us where you are, because we didn't know where they were. We were just trying to save him. We knew he needed to be saved. And we're like, show us where you are, take us to where you are. And that's when the journey of interstellar travel began. And I was like, what? And these airplanes are like, they're like airplanes, but they weren't airplanes. But like, oh my God, it's so much happened. Like, so much happened. So just know that the experiences you had, guys, when you're dreaming, if it's super out there, and it felt like you wake up like tired, or you wake up like you had totally had experience, it was probably an astral body experience. It was actually something your soul was experiencing, just not in this body, this full-blown body that your soul has now. Your soul's doing things when it's sleeping. So that I'm calling it a dream, but I know it's not a dream. Like, that experience, like, and we actually ended up helping the individual. I didn't get to fully know the end of like the story, like if he was fully released, because we did our part. And then the rest of it kind of depended on him. So I don't know like what ended up happening. But the really funny part is, I woke up to go to the bathroom, and I was like, wow, that was insane. And I woke up to go to the bathroom, and I went to the bathroom, I came back into bed, and I jumped right back into like seeing what was going on in the scenario. So that for me, like, is a really massive indicator that my consciousness was able to go back, tap back into that. And then there was a trick there that happened. Like, my consciousness, my soul was getting me to repeat it. The scenario that was going on, like, I didn't know why I was repeating at the time, but I kept finding myself, I remember thinking in the dream, I remember thinking, man, I probably sound like really boring. Like, I'm probably being really annoying to everyone around me, because I kept going, we call this astral body, and I was repeating the scenario that was living, and I was saying it, and I was repeating it, and I was repeating it, and then like repeat it one more time, and I would repeat it one more time, like everything that was going on. And then I obviously during the moment, like, I wasn't realizing what happened. And then after I finished the whole scenario, like, I woke up, and I went to the bathroom, I came back, I jumped back right back into like what was going on. Like, I didn't miss going back into it. I was able to live the whole scenario. And then when I woke up, I was like, whoa. And then I was like, oh, that's why I repeated it. Like, that's why I was repeating, because the soul's trying to help you remember. So your consciousness is there. And so it uses like tidbits of your consciousness it's not full-blown consciousness, but like your consciousness is trying to get you to like remember it. So you're repeating it and repeating it and repeating it. So that, I guess if you're able to kind of manipulate your dreams a little bit, and you're having a scenario dream, if you're having a scenario, like repeat it. That seemed to help me like remember it. And it wasn't me that knew that, it was my soul that was getting me to do it. So that was really interesting. Anyways, I'm off topic from the book, but I thought that was really interesting to talk about like linear time, and she was seeing all the years going out. And then at the same time, when we go to sleep, our soul's also having all these experiences, like, oh, this is happening all at the same time. The whole thing is insane. Okay. I also jotted down that, okay, so one of the scenarios that she had was, this lady had was, she had woke up one day and she was really sick. And that was the latest event that she had when she went to get her hypnosis session with Dolores Cannon. And so when they were going to do the first session, they decided to do the latest event that had happened to her, the latest like weird event that had happened to her. So they visited the scenario, like, let's find out what happened. You woke up feeling really sick and the doctor didn't like find anything, like what's happened. And during the hypnosis session, there's quite a few things they discovered. So there's a lot to talk about. But one of the things that they discovered was that since she was a little girl, all those weird scenarios that were going on, including the latest one, it was about her encountering or meeting up with or being taken by the gray beings. Well, I knew it was the gray beings as soon as you were describing it, because she was saying like they're short, and I forgot whatever indicator she gave that, like I was like, oh, that must be a gray being. And I thought, yeah, okay, definitely must be gray. And that's normal because they were taking her to like work with her. And well, now I'm going to talk about the like baby scenarios. And I was like, oh, that's typical gray because of the hybrid program. So then the being at some point comes in directly through her in the hypnosis session and starts talking through her vocal cords, of course. So the lady's under hypnosis. Dolores Cannon has asking the questions, trying to figure out what's going on. And then the voice, Dolores Cannon describes how the voice just becomes mechanical and the tone changes. And I was like, wow, that's super cool. And that's not the first time Dolores in the book talks about that happening. So it seems to happen quite a bit. And then she's going to be meeting up again with this being. But what my suspicions that it was a gray being was confirmed as soon as I read in the book that the being with that mechanical voice and the different tone coming out of this woman's vocal cords and body, the being said, when Dolores Cannon asked, like, you know, can I know who you are, or can I know your name, or something along that line, he said, I'm on the cover of the book, The Communion. So I'll show you guys right here, the book. And the book Communion, I didn't know it. Well, I heard about that author once, but I never read it. And I looked into it, and I believe that I have it under all my books. I have a lot of books to like pending that I want to read. So I believe that I have it in my e-reader, but I would have to recheck it again. I was like, now I need to read this now that the being talked about it like for a second. So that was a confirmation to me when I Googled it really quickly to see the picture of communion while I was reading the book. I was like, oh, yep, seems to be a gray. Yep. So my suspicions were, you know, confirmed there. And then when she started talking about like the scenarios of the grays coming to pick her up ever since she was like a little girl, what it seems like is she signed up for it. And so of course under hypnosis session, she's saying, no, she was very upset about it. Like, I didn't sign up for this. I don't want this. Like, and so apparently the beings came up and showed her the contract. We're like, this, here you go. Like, you totally signed up for this. But the really interesting thing was the beings respected her now current free will. That is the being that she was incarnated as. They respected that, even though her soul had signed up for that, you know, scenario and said, yeah, I'm good with you doing this with me during this lifetime. But now the free will kicks in because she's incarnated. And the being said, well, if you don't want to anymore, you can decide, and we'll leave, like, we'll leave it at that. Like, you don't have to. And I think she said yes to continue, if I'm not mistaken. Like, that's what I understood from the book. It wasn't like fully, to me at least, it wasn't fully clear if she said, yeah, I'm going to continue to work with you guys. I think it was like, oh yeah, I have the choice. I have the choice. Like, I can make a decision myself. So that was really cool that they gave her the free will, which makes the scenario seem a little bit less scary, even though it's to us humans thinking about being taken by the grays and all this medical procedures being done on you, like the way for her it happened. Like, that's scary. And like, yeah, I don't think anybody really wants that. You feel like your privacy is being taken away, even though your soul signed up to help. Maybe her soul's linked to, if I find that a lot of the times when people have connections with beings, in this case, her connection is the contract, right? When people in their current incarnation have connections with beings, usually their soul either incarnated a lot with that like race, or their soul considers that like race their like home, like they're from there and that's where they're mostly incarnate, and they're actually maybe here on earth in this lifetime to do work with, you know, with humans for their home base, for their race. So maybe that's why her soul signed up for that. Maybe originally she incarnates into grays and said, well, let me take one for the team. Let me go to Earth and incarnate as a human and use the body that I have at the time to do all the work you guys need to, all that good work, you know, we need for our own people. And then I'm going to come back and reincarnate as a gray again. Maybe that was the contract. We don't really get information on this specific contract that she had, more than just knowing that she had, her soul had signed up for that scenario experience contract, you know, whatever. So when she had woken up in that, like in her bedroom, she woke up and apparently she had a lot of discomfort in like her lower region. She had a lot of discomfort and she had coughed up blood, but she went to the doctor and her doctor didn't find anything. And this is a person who had never had a baby, like she never had a child. So she ends up finding out that she had been pregnant, and it was through this work that her soul was doing with the grays. And then I thought right away, totally hybrid program, like off the bat, like I knew like the hybrid program, like if you ever were interested in alien stuff, if you ever looked into alien stuff, you know that the grays supposedly lost their ability to reproduce. And so what they've created was a hybrid program where it's grays and humans mesh together. And what they're trying to do is grab the best parts of each species. So it's like, from the humans, what they love about us is we're very like the emotional body, like they love that about us. Apparently we have, our DNA really is good for like creator energy, like we're connected to source really well. Apparently they're connected in a very different way, but like humans have this really interesting, really powerful connection with the original source, call it whatever you want to call source. So apparently they want to bring a little bit of that as well. So we have a very complex system that it seems like no other race has, unless it maybe some other humanoid species, I guess. But we're pretty complex, and that seems to be something that fascinates a lot of other races. So sometimes they want to pull parts of that for themselves, for their own race, to improve their own race. And so what do the grays seem to have that they were saying that they mesh together with aspects of human stuff is their mental capacity is impressive. Apparently their mental capacity is like they can remember anything. They're really good at putting things like in places in their brain and like totally remembering every detail and every aspect of that. So they're very good with that mental. And of course, if you think about humans, we're not so great about that. Like we're not great at that with at all. We are known for using the smallest portion of our brain, even though we have this massive like system that is the brain, and we cannot seem to tap into it fully. So imagine like the power of the mental of the grays and the power of the emotional body and the creator energy that we were able to connect with, because apparently we're very good creators of a reality. The thing is, we haven't figured that out because we've been dumbed down. So we're not really great at manifesting and creating our world, but actually supposedly we're really good at it. We have forgotten, and we've been untaught that and hidden that in some sort of a way. So bring those two things together and it's like, wow, amazing. And it must be amazing. And so this hybrid program, apparently, I guess she's a part of it. It seems like she's a part of it. Now they talked about the fact that they have, I guess you said children. They have children in two different ways. They either have it through the hybrid program, but then there's another way where apparently some of these races are coming together and creating a being through, like, I guess you'd say active decision consciousness, where like they'll merge, two beings will merge their energy, and then from that they will create a child. And then so this is all, the system is obviously very different. There's no reproducing in the way that we reproduce, so it's different. It's like divine consciousness creating another being, I guess that's the best words I could find to describe it. And so that's another source, like another being. That's not the grays. What the grays do on the side of the hybrid program is cloning, they were talking about. So the grays do the hybrid and the cloning. These other beings, I guess, that are more advanced are doing the merging of energies to create another child. And so the cloning that the grays do, they can clone like people. Like they might be like a clone of me, a clone of you here somewhere like on Earth now, right? And we have no idea about it, right? And so what they were saying, that these clones are coming here with a mission. So there's two different scenarios for those clones. one of those clones is like walking around having a life and doesn't know it's a clone, apparently, which is what the Greys were trying to explain. And the other scenario is there's a clone, knows it's a clone, is sent on a specific mission to Earth, does its thing and meshes and merges between all of us, and we don't even like pick up. That person could be passing by in front of us on like the street, and it's like a hybrid. Well, not a hybrid, it's a clone, a clone made by the Greys, like a full human body, but it's a clone that had been created through the process that the Greys did. And it's here on a specific mission to help the Greys, obviously. And it's just walking between us, passing us on the streets, maybe. And then apparently those versions know that they're a clone, and they know their specific mission or what they're here to do. And once it's done, they leave, so they don't stay. Whereas the other scenario of the clone seems to be they have a mission or purpose. They're not fully aware that they're a clone, so they're just going to be living life probably like us, like with their own struggles and their own scenarios, and trying to just like be human, but have this huge urge to accomplish something in this lifetime or do something. And that's probably part of their inherent like system that helps them get towards that mission or accomplish that purpose, right? So the hybrid program, getting back to the hybrid program. So this woman obviously was somehow impregnated, because the process of impregnation was not really described in that hypnosis session, but it was like she supposedly was impregnated. So it was done via the Greys. And then when it was about 3-4 months, so they consider full term apparently 4 months for them. And so plus for them, because the person's not fully showing. So here on Earth, people will know she was pregnant and she never had a baby. So, right, like they probably didn't want anybody to notice it. Apparently the mother herself usually might know it, but some don't at all. And then when they reach 4 months, they take the person back, I guess, to the spaceship, or to their base, or whatever you want to call it. They take them back and they have a full birthing process. Like, so what they were describing was like, it's actual birth. Like the person's pushing, like everything. It's the whole same natural process that humans would do on Earth, but done at the 4 month, because it's a full term for that hybrid. Like that's 4 months full term for them. So they don't need more than like we do, right? But they put them in a conscious state so the person cannot remember, number one, and number two, because they don't feel pain. So it's almost like they're under this state where their body's functioning and they're probably pushing just the same, and they're probably doing all the conscious stuff they would do if they were in a normal birthing process on Earth. But they're put under some sort of a conscious, they call them, I think that she was calling it sleeping, that she didn't want to be put to sleep. But what they were saying is that she's just at a level where she won't feel pain, because they don't want her to feel pain. And they want it to be like the less traumatic scenario of birth for the individual. But at the same time, that person is not supposed to remember that they had a child, because the child stays with them. So she had the whole birthing process, all of that, and then she had the child, and then they have like these caretakers apparently. So the hybrid stays there with the Greys and is raised there, and is raised by what they call a caretaker that kind of replaces the mom. As a mom myself, I'm like, this is really upsetting. Like I would be so upset if I had like a child that was taken away, but obviously she doesn't remember. And that's the whole point, because they probably also know that the human biology of a human being and a mother, it's like, we're made to like want to care for our children. We're made to protect them, and it's anti-natural to take the baby away, right? And just never see the baby again. It's not a human reaction, not a typical human reaction. And most mothers, I think, wouldn't take it really well. So they're gonna have to make the mother forget. And so that baby's raised by the caretaker, which the Greys were saying were trained or taught by the mom, because these caretakers don't actually know, since they're half human, they have human needs that the Greys have no idea about, like these nurturing aspect that we have. Like they need to learn how to do it with a child, like how to take care of the child. So apparently the mom does stay on board for a little bit to teach the caretaker how to take care of the child, and then she's taken back to like her life on Earth. And from what the Grey was saying was that those babies become full-blown adults. It could be within like weeks. Like in a month, that baby could be a full-blown adult. Like that's insane. That's so crazy. So in their times, it's different. Obviously, their time is different because we talk about time on Earth. It's different for them. And the system just, I guess, develops much quicker. Like they don't need to do that slow process that we do, where we learn how the world functions and the mom helps through that process and things like that. So that was like super, I was like, that's quick. Yeah. I find it so insane to like just think that there's been mothers taken from probably their bed when they're sleeping, and they've been somehow impregnated. I guess like you hear the stories like I was probed, and I don't know what else, like those really older stories of abductions. Like, okay, was that those probes and stuff? Was that like them inserting like the seed or something inside of the human to create like the mesh between human and grays and the hybrid thing? And I've heard quite a few people say like, oh, I have babies. Like all these, there's a bunch of people that seem to like be consciously knowing that they have hybrid children. And I've heard it more than once. I'm like, wow, how do they know that? Like, maybe I'm not aware of those things because I'm not part of that program. And hey, I'm okay not to be part of that program too. But that's, of course, like when I say that, it's me, Lucia, saying it, and it's me, Lucia, very human, saying it. Like we would probably all say that. Well, not everybody, but like I think that some people are okay with being part of that. Like those people that say, yeah, I have children, they don't seem to be bothered by it. So maybe some people are, once they accept it, it's like, okay. I just think that we're aware that our emotional bodies are different, and apparently we feel pain and they don't. And so that's scary to think that there's like a being taking you and they can't really respect your emotional, state, because they don't understand it, because they don't have it themselves. Like this person that's over there crying, what is she doing? What's that water coming out of her eyes? Like some aliens seem to think it's really strange, like the stuff that comes out of our eyes. And it's like, what is that liquid stuff? And that's we're upset or we're sad or whatever we're feeling, and we start crying, like that intense feeling that creates crying. They don't have that. And then pain, like even through the birth system, they don't have that pain. So I find it like a little scary. If someone doesn't know what pain is, how can they help you avoid it? Right. So I just think about those things sometimes. But I'm learning a lot from this book in the sense that it's confirming a lot of things I already knew. So I'm not learning anything like brand new. Except for me, the clone thing, like I knew that there was clones. I didn't know that there were some clones that knew that there were clones. So that was a little new to me. Like I knew that I had this like aware, conscious, like knowing inside of me that there were clones created by possibly aliens. I think there's programs going on Earth as well. That's my opinion. I don't have anything to confirm that, but I do think that that's going on also on Earth, whoever's doing it. But I always believed that those clones didn't know. Which imagine if you like listening, you're a clone. Like you're a clone and you have no idea that you're not the original version of you. That's insane. That's like insane. I think that you'd have like an existential crisis. Like, oh my God, I'm not the original version of Lucia. Like I'm just like some clone version. And apparently clones live shorter lives. Like clones, they haven't mastered the art of cloning. So apparently like clones will die off sooner. They might have some memory lapses and things. So you're like a less validating version if you're a clone, I guess. I don't know. Like I don't want to sound mean to clones, but that's what I would think if I were to find out that I was a clone. I would be like, what? And apparently clones are still very aware of the creation. Like, so let's say that I am a clone version of the original Lucia. I still have all the memories Lucia had from when she was born, and her relationship with her parents and her siblings, and where she lived and what she did. So clones actually have all of that memory still in their system. So the clone will, if they don't remember, they'll probably never figure out that they're a clone, because you still have the story of the creation of you, and all the storylines and all the traumas and all the fears, all of that is still there. So it's not like you were just like boom created and I was created out of nowhere. I don't remember being born. You actually seemed, or clones seem to remember all of those tidbits of the way that being came into Earth and the life it had previously. So just some weird stuff to think about, I guess. I don't know if I'm wasting my time thinking about it, but I like to ponder about like those scenarios. I like to ponder about life, which is also where I like to read, because I'll read things and be like, huh, let me think about that for a second. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed that. And of course, I'll be back with more about this. And I hope I'm not boring you with alien stuff. It's a lot, it's a lot to take in sometimes, but I think it's a good thing that it's like to try to learn about it, because I do get from what the Akashic Records are is in our lifetime, we will be having direct contact with these beings from a conscious level, not like you're sleeping and you don't remember. It's going to be slow. And I don't think it's going to start with everyone. I think it's going to be like a trickling where like some people start having more direct contact and remembering, and then expands out. So I think it depends on our level of acceptance and consciousness. If you've managed to release the fear of maybe connecting with these beings and meeting them. So I think it's a slow process, but I think that we're supposed to start speaking more about this. And I think that we're supposed to try to incorporate this more into our conscious life, because we're on the road towards being part of the rest of the universe. Like, we've been isolated, and it's time to get us back into the rest of the universe, because it's only limiting us. That will actually help us learn more about ourselves, empower ourselves more, and how are humans created. And I'm into all that information, like finding out like how the DNA of humans were manipulated by other species to create what we are now. All of that I find super interesting. So I think that we need to bring that into our conscious. And maybe some of the information is not totally valid, or maybe a little off, but at least we're preparing ourselves for, what a lot of people call disclosure. I just call it jumping back into the rest of the universe that's been living without us. Well, I think they've been living with us in a sense, but we just have been living without them because we don't remember. I guess those are better words. But I'll see you guys again in the next book talk. Bye.